We got Turkmenistan, Portugal, Serbia, Macedonia, Belarus, all over Kazakhstan, Albania. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to have a good session today. It's 48. It's like 4 o'clock now. Moldova. I think 50 is okay. I think people, oh, we have 9 people in the waiting room. Okay, I'll wait. Okay. I'm going to just honor the people that came on time and just go ahead and start now. And then people do tend to trickle in. Hello, everyone. Maybe you remember me. My name is Tiffany Sprague. If you want, please turn on your video so we can see everybody's lovely face and make this as interactive as possible. Hope everyone's doing okay and having a great day. Today, we're going to talk about environmental intelligence. We are, as you know, that this whole academy is about the future of work. And up until now, we've talked about digitalization, we've talked about technology, automation, artificial intelligence. And when it comes to climate action, we really need environmental data, environmental intelligence. And that's like our collective ability to sense, to understand, and actually act on the signals that the planet is sending us. Knowledge is really power. And as data becomes our most powerful language for interpreting those signals, the challenge and the opportunity lies in translating it into decisions that serve not just businesses and corporations, but the people and the planet. So today's conversation, I'm really excited, brings together 2 thought leaders who bridge that divide between data and humanity. They're going to help us answer the questions of how do governments and businesses use data for climate action, or maybe not. Our first speaker is Justin Goodwin. He is the director at Aether, a UK-based environmental consultancy with over 2 decades of experience in air pollution, climate change, and emissions monitoring, reporting, and verification. He has contributed as a lead author to the 2019 IPCC refinement, to the 2006 guidelines, and earlier authored chapters of the 2006 IPCC greenhouse gas inventory guidelines. Since 2005, he has served as a UNFCCC nominated lead reviewer, advising on transparency, accounting, and reporting under the Paris Agreement. Justin has led projects across Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, and the Balkans, supporting governments and international organizations in strengthening environmental data systems, developing inventories, and linking climate action to finance and the Sustainable Development Goals. Welcome, Justin, and thank you. And then our second speaker is Alan Lauch. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. He's an entrepreneur, risk tech innovator, and natural capital strategist with over 20 years of experience in bridging finance, data, and ecosystem resilience. He leads Generation Blue, which is a venture studio creating a liquid global natural capital marketplace, and previously drove the first mangrove and blue carbon-backed token via LIC AG. A former founding member of Risk Metrics, Alan has deep roots in financial network analytics, having pioneered tools for early warning, adaptive stress testing, and visual systemic risk diagnosis. He is committed to embedding living nature into global financial systems, democratizing access to ecosystem-based investments, and empowering communities with environmental intelligence. I mean, people, you can't get any more out of the box thinking than these 2 guys. So I'm really, let's just dive in. So get your questions ready, put them in the chat whenever, and we'll try to get to your questions. To break the ice like we did last time, I'd like to bring our 2 speakers and do a round of lightning questions just to break the ice. And then they're going to go into some 10 to 15-minute interventions. And then after that, we'll open the floor for question and answers to all of you. Does that sound okay to everyone? And then after that, I think I'm going to hand it over to Joseph at the end to talk about a communications advocacy campaign. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
cool. So Justin and Alan, my first question to both of you is, do you have a favorite podcast? Who would like to take that one first?
I can go first. Hi, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. 80 plus people, all mostly half my age, is incredibly inspiring to be with. So thank you. Mine was Diary of a CEO, because that was one that I consistently listen to, because it exposes me to people who, I guess, within our traditional value system, have recognized as being successful. And what that helps me understand is their journey to success and their view and vision about success. There are a lot of other podcasts that I listen to, because I don't read very much, but I listen to a lot. But the Diary of a CEO, I think, has been the one that's consistently taught me a bit about people who have achieved things, how they've achieved them, their failures, as well as their successes, and helped to show me that there are lots of different ways and approaches to careers, and to leading your life, and that this a kind of traditional go to university, get qualifications, work within that one sector that you've got qualifications from early choices, showed me that actually there's much more to life than just following a path that you think has been mapped out for you at the beginning. So Diary of a CEO.
How about you, Alan? What is your favorite podcast?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Yeah, I also listen to a lot of podcasts, and do less reading nowadays. And yeah, I have a few favorites, but I guess I'll choose this kind of unusual one. It's called The Emerald, by Josh O'Shea, and it's very, very special. He kind of dives deep into mythology and nature, ancient wisdom, and I think that's quite an interesting one.
Cool, thank you. And sorry, just a reminder, lightning round. So if you can maybe do it in like even one word or 3 words, it's a challenge to both of you. Okay, so what's a belief about leadership or innovation you've completely changed your mind about in the last few years? Maybe Justin, you can take that one.
So I've completely changed from believing that everything can be structured and everything can be controlled, to a state where we need to understand and manage chaos.
Cool.
Awesome
you,
answer. Yeah, I guess I would say, the sort of the belief that you have to be correct and perfect, to innovate, as opposed to innovation through a process of experimentation and failure. So I really like Tim Harford's book, Why Success Always Starts with Failure, as that.
Oh, I like that. Very good. Okay, so 2 more questions. What's one human habit, not a tech tool, that helps you stay grounded while you're navigating constant change?
For me, it's pushing my physical limits outside in nature,
In nature.
and scaring myself a little bit every day if I can.
Okay.
Love that. Mine's in nature too, and I love to surf every day
Oh, you surf every day. That's nice.
when possible. But overall, nature immersion, I would say, is definitely very, very important to ground.
Love that. Okay, and then the last one is, what is the worst advice that you were ever given? Justin.
For me, it's pay into a pension. I can explain to you. I can go a long way into explaining to you, but it's pay a pension. No control over my savings.
Okay, maybe we can dive deeper into that a bit.
For me, it's Bitcoin is just a bubble.
Bitcoin is just a bubble. I have to say I was in that camp. for a while. But now reading more about how you've done this with mangroves, I'm very, very interested to hear about this. Okay. Well, thank you for playing along with that. Hopefully we're all loose and this is gonna be casual and very chill. And so I'm gonna give you both about 10 to 15 minutes each to talk about what you do. And then the most important bit is about like the skills that are necessary to get us through. If someone is wanting to go into your same career pathways, like what kind of skills are necessary. So I'm going to hand it over to Justin. You have 10 to 15 minutes, and then Q&A, and then we'll hand it to Alan, and also then Q&A.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tiffany.
Where's yours? Yep.
So you probably guessed from my background, I'm a founding director of Ether, which is a UK-based consultancy. We have 40 people, most in the UK and some in Canada, Estonia, and Spain. But fundamentally, we're all human beings working in a field that is changing all the time and is incredibly interesting. But we also have kids, families, we need money, and we want to see the world. So we have our own dilemmas, but we also have the reassurance of working in a field where principally we're trying to do some good. The skills that we rely on really are into three categories, really. One is an underlying understanding of the pressures on the environment. We specialize in the pressures around emissions into the atmosphere that create bad air pollution, that affect human health, and understanding where those are coming from and how they get there and how to prevent them. In a similar way, we also specialize in understanding the greenhouse gases that are going into the atmosphere and changing our climate. So those are specialisms, and those are rooted very much through an understanding of individual sectors, as well as understanding where to find the data. And that's the biggest challenge, is piecing together this jigsaw of data to inform decision makers. We also, and I'll unpick some of those individual skills as we go through. The other subject matter areas that we're engaging in is helping countries to understand risks and vulnerability and bring enough information together to form a useful conclusion on which sectors are most under threat, which parts of the economy might be under threat, or what livelihoods are under threat in individual countries and subnational areas. And there are a lot of different skills required to do that. We're also extremely busy with trying to help design solutions, so look at options. So once we understand the challenges that are being faced, we also need to collect data to figure out what's possible to change and what the impacts of changing our economic system or economic basis is. Who's going to be positively impacted and where the negative impacts are. And we look across all of the sustainable development goals to see where those negatives might be hiding, so that we don't make mistakes in our decisions and investment for change. So that's action tracking and understanding those action options and trying to gross up those actions to see where we get the biggest result for the investment that we're able to give. Across all of these three areas, we're really looking at data gathering. So data is the key Achilles heel for decision makers. If you don't have enough information to measure what's going on, then you have very limited options and justification for delivering change and managing it. So it's that evidence base that's really, really key. And I think that the traditional inventory work, which is to piece together a whole portfolio of estimates for all sectors of a country, going all the way from the energy production, energy consumption, within that different forms of transport, different forms of heating, then all of the information about agriculture and how agriculture functions and creates emissions, land use change and forestry, forest systems, all the way through to waste. Trying to piece together that and come up with a set of evidence that will withstand the scrutiny of the international community and the review communities that I've been involved with is interesting and hard work. It's piecing together scraps of information, bringing together huge, great chunks of information and trying to distill that down. So that information gathering, information analysis is critically important. And we have more and more data, and we use it in a substandard way at the moment. So there's a lot of skills around that data gathering, either small pieces of data that we extract from a one-to-one conversation, or large chunks of data that we can get from a satellite. And it's very broad. Obviously, the skills around AI, programming to get user interfaces, to gather data or to do analysis of data is critically important. Kind of data scraping from lots of different sources, and the quality assurance and quality control regimes around that data are critically important. The second skill that we require is that people-based skill, because we are seen as subject matter experts. We can't do all of this data gathering ourselves, and we're empowered to help and work with other countries to explain what we've learned about gathering data and to help those countries form their own teams of people, create jobs in countries for people to do that data gathering analysis themselves. Critical thing with a lot of these issues, or most of these issues, is that we can't just do a snapshot analysis, say this is the status quo and this is the route to change. We have to keep updating that evidence base to keep decision makers fresh and informed and confident about the data. And it's a bit like when you're driving along a road, you're constantly moving the steering wheel to adjust where you're going on that road. That's what we need with the data. And so we need that regular cadence of data and update of data. Otherwise, we're never going to affect change. We're never going to make sure that the decision makers follow the right track. So the data engagement with people is critically important, and we need to get teams up to speed and younger people passionate about the detective work of collecting the data, about following and writing guidance and guidelines and standards for this data collection, and becoming experts in their own country, in their own organizations, in their own right, that bring a credible layer of environmental data into conventional existing decision-making processes that traditionally function around money only. So that engaging with people has another whole skill set. You know, it's empathy. We need to understand where people are coming from. We need to be able to stand up in front of people and talk about our data, or we need to be able to stand up in front of people and find ways of getting them to put a bit of effort into giving us data and endorsing it. The other is the skills around legally binding in the activities. So we can't just create ad hoc teams and do this work. We need regular teams. So we need that legal binding. We need job descriptions. We need an HR process. We need to motivate and inspire people to come and perform these jobs. So there's more of a legal binding component. There's management and coordination. There's creating a wonderful space where people can work and experiment with creating good quality data and presenting it in interesting ways. So those are the skills I see, and I see that the system thinking is important, and the cross-cutting view of the world where you understand a bit about all sectors. You understand enough about data and IT that you can bring in those skills and you can stack together skills that have been traditionally very, very narrowly focused into something that builds an information platform in the broadest sense, a skill set that allows us to start working across traditional silos, start working across accountancy, working across IT, across engineering, to bring together all those fragments of information that help those decisions in those traditional silos, that help them make the right large and small decisions. And so that's how I see this kind of environmental intelligence performing and serving the new decision makers of the world. And as decision makers that many of you will be, being able to understand the complexity and nuance of the data around sectoral strategies, around national, subnational, and private sector organization drivers, the traditional drivers, and understanding how the environmental messaging can be integrated will be critically important. And this world is much more complex, but it's shouldn't be daunting. It should be exciting, because I think there are a lot of very interesting problems to solve through understanding this overview and integrating that cross-cutting skill set with the detailed skills that we have. I think I've used my 10 minutes. I have a wealth of other things I can talk to you about, but I'll just pause there to
No,
see
that's,
if I have more time, or if you want to go into the next part of the talk.
I think we have a bit of time. I mean, some things that I picked up on was some of the skills and what in your space you've highlighted soft skills and also systems thinking, which kind of transcends some of the technical skills. I've been wondering if you can give us like a snapshot of one of your favorite projects in terms of how maybe your clients or governments or business that you've worked with, how they've used, what data they asked you to collect and what was it used for?
Okay, yeah, I've got a couple actually. So one project, and this is a series of projects that we do working for clients. We do a lot of work for the film industry, and the film industry is interested now in how it can reach net zero, which is a label everyone's aiming for, but also how it can engage its staff in meaningful, sustainable activities, and actually enhance their staff's experience of working through integrating a proper holistic approach to the journey to net zero, but also their wider sustainable activities. And so, I mean, a snapshot of the film industry is they fly their actors usually by business class. There's a challenge there. Staff have to travel to shoots and to the office. So how do we manage that? There's equipment. There's feeding hundreds of people on location. There's terabytes and terabytes of raw data and footage. And then, of course, there's the elephant in the room, which is the digital media online that is keeping many, many servers running. So there's a lot of challenges there working with those organizations. And I think right now and in the last year or so, the realization that net zero is actually quite difficult to achieve, especially if everyone achieves net zero. So we're now much more thinking with our clients about that journey and the integrity of their approach and what they're trying to achieve, bringing the clients with them. And for that, they need a better quality of data, because they need to be able to show how challenging things are, why things aren't working, and engage stakeholders at a deeper level with how those small changes can be enacted together.
Amazing. See if we have any questions in the chat. Or feel free to just come off your microphone and just ask questions. We'll have about, what, 10 minutes or so for questions, I think, yeah. And then, Joseph, maybe you can, we're good on time, yeah?
Yeah, we're good on time.
Good.
If no questions, then maybe we can turn to Alan and then take questions later on. Or we have
We have a
Batir.
question. from
Yes,
Batir.
Batir, would you like to take the floor maybe?
Yes. Hello. Hello, everyone. My question is, what difference between big data and just simple data, in the industries, maybe in the different sectors like energy, maybe construction, and etc.
Thank you. So simple data tends to be what we've been using traditionally. There's national statistics, it's small amounts of data. There's huge gaps in the data, and it comes very slowly from traditional data flows. Big data offers opportunities to use larger forms of data, which could be more immediate, need more processing power, but have less ownership from the organizations generally that we work with. So there's a sort of third-party data that comes from satellites or from other remote sensing and monitoring particularly, or from crowd-based systems. We still need to integrate and get that buy-in from stakeholders who are the decision makers. And so big data is sometimes a difficult sell to the stakeholders that we're trying to produce information for decision making. It's also more challenging to process, and can be expensive to deal with. So I think Alan will probably come back to that as well, because there's a lot that can be done through these modern systems and modern techniques that deal with big data. I mean, we've got distributed ledger systems that handle huge amounts of data. But for our traditional consultancy work, we work much more with data that policymakers, decision makers buy into, understand, and can work with.
Great.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you for your question. We have a few more questions here. Let me remove the spotlight here. Savara is asking, yes, I mean, Savara, Rano, we have Tina and Nilsu. Do you want to take them all at once, or should we just go
Yeah.
one at a time? Okay.
Well, I can read them here, so I can answer them if
Sure.
that's what you prefer, or if the people would like to speak
Yeah,
and
maybe
ask the
you
question themselves.
can invite Savara. Do you want to ask your question? And I don't know where she is.
Oh, surely I would like to. So my question was, with all the development of AI and technologies, do you believe that perhaps a new profession related to data might appear in the near future? Thank you for your answer in advance.
Thank you. That's a great question. I do. I think that we need data scientists now. We need people that can provide efficient translation of large amounts of data. Traditionally, we work in scavenging data from different sources into spreadsheets, and then analysis of those spreadsheets. And there is a gap in skills at the moment for people that can process data in a credible way outside of that very human intensive activity. So we are looking for data scientists that can build an understanding of the environmental themes that they're working with, but we can process data much more efficiently with less errors.
Thank you for that. There is one important question, I think, in the chat, and then we'll go to Rano. Nilsu, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the presentation just then. I just wanted to ask, because you mentioned evidence-based action is key, and I absolutely agree with that. But as we have been discussing for weeks now, how AI is affecting our lives, how it's affecting the future of work, and we are relying on environmental intelligence like the air quality monitoring and etc. So I wanted to ask, how do we avoid reinforcing inequalities between data-rich and data-poor regions? Thank you.
It's a good question, and I think that the more we move into technically difficult data handling and analysis, the more we have that inequality. I think embedded within the UN and the various aid-related support is that the countries that have the data-rich systems, have the abilities to do things, need to be able to provide that capability to countries that haven't yet established a economy where they can handle that data. And I think that the signs within transparency, where we have funds going into helping countries to build their data systems, with money coming from countries that already have built their data systems, is a good start. But I think we need to do more on improving the equality between data rich and data poor regions. We can do more now because we've got more global data sets that we can use. There's more analysis, and actually there's more money to fund people on the ground to collect data as well. So we just need to make sure we have a good framework for that and we put it to good use, recognizing that this information is going to feed our ability to make the right decisions collectively around climate and other environmental issues.
Thank you. Well, Rano, did you have your hand up or?
Yes.
We'll
Hello,
take one more
Justin.
question and then we'll move on to Alan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. You mentioned the importance of understanding and managing chaos. So within your team, how do you ensure the readiness of the members to respond to the chaos, and how do you support their mental health during the turbulent times? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very good question. In terms of managing the chaos of our project work, we first of all create a very strong team environment. So we make sure that we have experienced experts supporting more junior experts to deal with that stress of data gathering, data not coming in, not being able to deliver what they're supposed to deliver. So we have the experienced experts who are there and able to provide an authoritative guess to fill gaps and to provide something that is credible in the light of there not being the data. So in a very specific environment, we always work to make sure that we have people who have enough experience and confidence to make sure that the projects deliver the right justification for the difficulties in dealing with the chaotic data. Your other question, I think, is leading to the fact, and a very interesting observation is that my team at Ether are exposed much more to the global chaos than many people. They go to countries and they see things not working firsthand. They look at the news and they can relate, the conflicts to various topics that they're working on, and it can be quite overwhelming. And we create an environment where we can talk about those, and we can come to terms with the fact that we can't fix everything, and we're a small cog in the process, but we are working towards providing a better understanding of the issues in the situation. I think the other thing is to remember that environmental data, as interesting as it is, isn't the first order priority of data in the world. And so a lot of the information that we produce actually challenges the status quo, and therefore there's a lot of difficulty in making that data stick and making that data change opinions and change how things work at the moment. And so we look at the small wins, the little progress that we make. We work hard to build relationships with people in countries that are the same as us and are working around data with us. And so we build a community and keep that community strong.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for your response.
Thanks for all the great questions. There's a very vibrant discussion on the chat. So maybe Justin, and if you want to take a look, and maybe you can answer some of the questions that we weren't able to get to.
Sure.
If we have time at the end, we can also do that. But thank you so much. And now I would like to invite Alan to take the floor. The floor is yours.
All right, good. So I actually prepared a little presentation just to give an idea of the kind of work that we're doing, specifically focused on blue carbon and mangrove restoration. And there's some kind of good examples on how we use machine learning and sensing information in order to evaluate potential areas for restoration. So if I can just share my presentation here. Let's see here. One participant. So just pressing share, and hopefully this will work. Let's see here. Oh.
You should have hosting rights.
Okay. Oh, looks like a Zoom setting. Yeah,
Send it to me. I can share it too.
Too bad. Yeah, I can, when I send a link to it, and then maybe
Okay.
that will work. Mm-hmm. So I'm just copying this link, and why don't I share that in the chat so that everyone can have access to that if you'd like to take a look, and I can just kind of walk through it. But Tiffany, maybe you can just check if the permissioning is
Yeah, you'll
available
need to
there.
give me some access.
Okay,
It's like,
let me do this. Share. There we go. Okay, I'm now going to make this just open access for anyone in the link with the link.
okay,
So
yeah,
anyone in the audience, you're welcome to take a look at this as well.
got it. Let me just share. Okay.
Amazing. Okay, good. Yeah, so my my background, as Tiffany mentioned, was really in financial services. I started at JP Morgan on Wall Street as a risk manager, yeah, kind of talk about my career transition from a corporate risk manager to planetary risk manager. So I've really focused around ecosystems, um, because that is the vital challenge for our generation, and how to transition from an economy with externalities, whether it's air pollution or any other form of damage that we do as part of our human activity. This is kind of the root cause of why we have the runaway climate crisis and all the other forms of pollution that are threatening us. So the question is how we can transition from an economy with externalities, where essentially, the earth is viewed as an externality, to an economy that is actually regenerative. So if we flip to the next page, this is Dr. Arne Fjørtoft, who introduced me to mangroves, and just keep clicking here a little bit. He has been pioneering large-scale mangrove restoration in Myanmar under very, very challenging conditions. The entire area was devastated by floods. Many of the kind of shows you one of the things that happens when you have profit motives driving ecological development. Rice farmers, were seeking more profit by cutting down the trees, the mangroves. And when they were gone, a big cyclone basically destroyed many homes and lives. And Dr. Arna has been there since over a decade. He is doing something which I call Earth positive. He is leaving the Earth a better place through massively restoring these mangroves that have been previously degraded. So let's flip on to the next slide. And keep going. One more. The interesting thing that I found in researching this, as actually one slide back, sorry, is that roughly 1% of our world economy is enough to transition us from an extractive to a regenerative economy, right? So we have the capital in order to make that. Roughly that's $1 trillion a year, which is way more than has ever gone into regeneration. And if we choose the right ways to implement this, whether it's in avoiding deforestation or restoring critically endangered ecosystems, we can get a massive impact. So let's go to the next slide here. What I found fascinating here is that blue carbon ecosystems, which is essentially in coastal ecosystems where there is, there are mangroves, salt marshes, and seagrasses. These little tiny coastal areas account for about 50% of the global carbon potential that we see. So if we go to the next page here, so these are some of these hotspots that we really want to focus on. And mangroves, just by way of background, they're salt water tolerant trees. They grow on shorelines, estuaries. They're amazing survivors, and they're keystone species because when they disappear, the entire ecosystem collapses, right? So they're buffering wave action, and if they're cut down, the rest of the forest and the rice fields and critical infrastructure, all of that is damaged through massive flood events. And also, they are filtering the water that comes through to allow seagrasses to thrive, which are massive carbon sinks. But the seagrasses aren't able to photosynthesize if the water is too silty and dirty. And the seagrasses produce so much oxygen as well that they're actually disinfecting the water, and then that allows the coral reefs to thrive. So all these ecosystems are interconnected, but mangroves really are this keystone, because if you take the mangroves away, the entire ecosystem collapses alongside with all of the biodiversity it harbors, right? So mangroves are kind of like the nursery of the shoreline, with all the baby fish finding refuge in these. Their roots literally are standing on top like stilts on the water. So let's move on to the next slide here. And just wanted to share some of the analysis that Tree Economy did for Vlinder. Vlinder is a company that I'm advising that also came from the work previously on tokenizing carbon credits at Likke. And Vlinder has been doing carbon projects throughout the world. And in this particular case, they've engaged an analytics platform by Tree Economy to really look at the carbon potential of restoring mangroves in Kenya. And so you can see a little bit of the kind of analysis that they've done, looking at where the mangroves are, the rates of deforestation through time. Maybe let's flip to the next page here. Okay, looking at what are the areas that we might actually target. Let's keep going. Degradation mapping, looking at the most severe areas of degradation that are part of eligible areas where restoration work could be done. Keep going. Okay, and keep going. Yeah, just different filters, and again, using different levels of confidence to really find these hotspots where the restoration work can be done. Keep going. Okay. Again, yeah, let's just keep going here, looking specifically, summarizing, looking at the different ratings for the different criteria that would allow us to determine what areas we want to focus on. What's the level of degradation? Is the area, accessible, close to settlements? How connected are these different patches? Can we do a big project with a number of different patches? So those are some of the dimensions. So it gives you an idea of the kind of data that we'd be looking at here. Let's keep going. Okay. And again, yeah, let's just keep going here. I think we've actually done, yep. Yeah. So you can see some of the information that's used here to focus on priorities. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, and one more. So this is a mangrove sapling. And the extraordinary thing, when I was in the investment world, I wanted to look at where I can get the biggest impact per dollar invested. And the extraordinary thing with mangrove ecosystems is that they have such incredible value towards humans. Specifically. So there are studies that look at ecosystem services for mangroves, which most studies, the median will probably be somewhere around $50,000 to $80,000 per year per hectare, with an Australian study claiming that it's up to $194,000 in certain areas, like in Florida, the value is $300,000 per hectare per annum. And that's quite extraordinary when you can restore a hectare of mangroves for about $2,000 to $3,000, right? So it's an incredible potential for return. And these returns are this is the value that we as humans get from this. We're not sort of looking at just kind of biodiversity in an abstract way. For example, it's specifically, okay, the fisheries that protects, or a lot of it is the coastal resilience from, storms and adverse weather events, the water filtration, and all of those kinds of things. So it's an extraordinary asset to invest in. Next slide. And so what we did was we issued a token where we allowed anyone with $1 to support this, right? It was a crowdfunding event. Each tree coin represented a mangrove restored in the Tor Heyerdahl Climate Park in Myanmar, and entitles the holder for mangrove carbon credits, blue carbon credits for 20 years. So next slide. So the idea here is that this is actually an earth positive currency, and wouldn't it be interesting if we had actually money with positive externality as opposed to negative externality? Keep going. Okay, and this is the VCS project description. You can all look it up there. I will just mention that some of the largest expense for this project has actually been to do the verification, right? And that now the innovation that we have with greater ability to get high resolution imagery on satellites, the advances in drones, the AI algorithms that we have to automatically detect certain kinds of patterns are making the restoration work and monitoring work much, much more feasible. And I think that's a huge hope that we can kind of go transition from what was kind of like a standard 1980s type of bureaucracy approach, a lot of paperwork. It took about 5 PhDs, 2 years to file all the different reports for this verification, and cost about $360,000. So just to give you an idea of the kind of manual work that the older approaches are mandating, whereas now that there are a number of new standards around ecosystems restoration and monitoring that are relying much more on the advances that we have in sensing and monitoring through all these amazing satellites that we have in the sky, and drones and other methods. Keep going. And this is a photo of a family of elephants that came back to the Tor Heyerdahl Climate Park just a few years after this was all completely degraded. And what is so beautiful is that the impact that project, natural restoration project, has is just so far, goes so far beyond carbon and the kinds of things that are valued by the marketplace, but are truly infinite. So the one of the initiatives that I'm now putting energy into is a community which is focused around rewarding verified impact for planetary action. And let's move on to the next slide. And that is called the Earth Team Community. It's an alliance of now several dozen NGOs and individuals who are very, very active in nature protection and restoration, as well as regenerative agriculture. And we're working on a project to essentially tokenize verified impact, so that anyone who does something positive in the world, whether it's planting a single mangrove or restoring hectares of mangroves, can apply to get a verified impact token, and so that we're actually valuing this impact. And as part of this initiative as well, we have expert networks who are going to evaluate this impact, as well as a solutions map that they can draw upon. And the idea is to use more and more of the innovations that we have in AI and sensing, in order to essentially have a super intelligence with a super heart to reward the protectors of Mother Earth. And next slide. And you can find out more about that initiative at www.earth-team.org. I think this could be interesting for anyone who's dedicated to environmental action. So yeah, that's just a bit about the kind of work that specifically I've been doing with mangroves. I think Justin gave an amazing overview of the kind of characteristics that we'd be looking for in terms of people who are working on projects like that. Data was the big thing Justin mentioned. Data science is so essential. There's a lot of demand for good developers as well. And in this line of work, project managers as well, who are really good at leading projects and interfacing with communities. In terms of skills, it's really problem-solving skills. It's being able to connect the dots. It's being able to work in collaboration with others. None of these things can be done alone, and very, very strong communications skills as well. So yeah, now just happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Super. Thank you so much for that. Interesting presentation. Yeah, so let's see. Raise your hand. Oh, okay, we've got a question from Dusan. Please take the floor.
Hey, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if you said this earlier, but can this species grown in non non-tropical climate, for example, Central Europe, Balkans, or something, or something like that? And if it
Yeah,
can,
mangroves specifically actually do require salt, and you have a mangrove forest as far north. It's typically in the tropics and subtropics. I think the northernmost place mangroves have survived is in the Bahamas. The biggest concentration of mangroves would be in Brazil, Indonesia, and throughout Southeast Asia as well, all around Africa. So there are mangroves in actually probably close to 100 countries in the world. You can find them, but not in Europe, the Balkans.
okay. And is there any alternative for that species for non non non-tropical countries and countries that they don't get to the sea? For example, because I'm from Serbia, I asking for my
Mhm.
country.
Sure. Yeah, especially around sort of blue carbon. So blue carbon is generally oceanic, and there are some major kelp forests in Europe, Portugal, for example, and seagrasses you find all over Europe as well, which are very, very important blue carbon types of ecosystems.
Mm, okay, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Dorothea?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I love how you framed mangroves as a part of like the carbon cycle, and I'm very curious, how do you balance biodiversity data with carbon data when you model it?
That's a super good question. And it highlights one of the challenges of a commodifying market, right? So these projects are being essentially the revenue driver is not the wild elephants that come back to the forest. It is carbon credits. And in many of these projects, there is a pressure to plant a monoculture of mangroves which grow as fast as possible to get as many carbon credits as possible, as opposed to a diversity of mangroves that might be slower growing and have many more benefits, but that are not quantified. So, I think the transparency in the market is increasing. People are recognizing the premium for a project with biodiversity as opposed to without, but the pressure always does exist. And the nice thing in Myanmar was that Dr. Arne planted about a dozen species of mangroves and has actually a nursery for critically endangered mangroves as well. And head forester who was actually in the forestry department of Myanmar before retiring and joining him, actually discovered one critically endangered mangrove, which was on the essentially red list, thinking, with less than several dozen trees that they thought were left. But there's a forest in Myanmar where he discovered about 1,000 of these trees and, took the saplings and they're being protected and nurtured there. So it's very, very important that the projects are managed holistically and not just for kind of one for short-term maximization of profits through carbon credits.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We have a question in the chat from Tara. Tara, do you want to take the floor? I can as well. It's up to you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So first of all, thank you for a very interesting presentation. This is something that I have never heard before. And my question is where do you see the natural capital asset class sitting relative to more established classes like equities, bonds, in terms of size, maturity, and most importantly, current investor interests?
Yeah. So in terms of the asset classes that you mentioned, it definitely would be in the alternative asset class. What is interesting is that that investors have been diversifying into alternatives, whether it's hedge fund investments or back in the 1990s, the idea was to introduce commodities into portfolios because there's a diversification effect. The interesting thing of looking at this natural capital as an alternative investment is that it is, in a way, insurance, right? You are literally buying insurance, planetary insurance, which has an impact of increasing the overall well-being of the planet, as well as with significant upside potential. JP Morgan actually did an analysis of natural capital as an asset class for investments. The reports are available publicly. What is very interesting is that these are significantly, all the different categories have a significant return potential. And amongst the highest would be blue carbon types of projects. So there are internal rates of return, IRRs, that are in the region of 15 to 25% per annum. So these are very, very significant returns that can be earned with a high level of risk, of course, because we're talking about investments in the global south where we have geopolitical and country risk, as well as the risks of the extreme weather events, anything from floods to fires, that can devastate these. So individually, each project is relatively risky. However, when you can bundle them in a portfolio to create an asset class, the risk of the individual project can be mitigated. So I believe that this would be something that institutional asset managers should be interested in. And there are a number of large premium sort of financial institutions who are investing specifically, for example, in carbon credits and other kinds of projects. This includes one of the major French banks. I would also say that the biggest investor in this tends to be large corporations who want to buy carbon credits to satisfy their net zero goals. That's another quite interesting thing. If you want to look at the pledges that have been made and the amount of carbon credits that are available that are truly restoring carbon into the earth, there is a vast undersupply projected in the future. So this should be a market that if just the existing corporations make good on their net zero pledges, the demand in this marketplace is going to be significantly higher than what the current supply is and what the projected supply is. So a good career opportunity, I would think.
Cool. Okay, I see
Thank
one
you.
more. Sorry, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for all the questions. So one more hand for Alan, and then I want to bring back Justin and then maybe we can open up the floor for another 5 to 10 minutes or so before we do our breakout sessions. So Tamerlan, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hello, Alan. You mentioned in the presentation there was something about the tokenization. Can you explain explain about it a little more thoroughly? Because I don't really get how does the tokenization combine with the growing of those plants or trees?
Sure. So we did the tokenization to enable a crowd fundraising, right? So typically, a project like Dr. Arne's is supported by governments, large corporations who make a significant investment, $1 million and up into these kinds of projects. And Dr. Arne didn't have that option. A government grant that he was expecting didn't come through from Norway. And he already had significant financing from corporate partners who are not willing to invest more. So the beauty of tokenization is that you can fractionalize ownership, right? So as opposed to having one investor to put in $1 million, we issued a token that anyone could buy for $1 at Lykke. So that means with a single dollar, you could support the project. So we could have 1 million investors investing $1 as opposed to a single investor investing in $1 million. And an interesting thing for fundraising is that if you have the ability to democratize investments, to allow many participants with a smaller threshold to invest, you have a much higher potential for investment than if you just rely on a few large investors, right? So that's the big reason for the tokenization, but other advantages are there that we have all the ownership on the blockchain, that when there are dividends, blue carbon dividends, for example, we now have the Mangrove DAO, it's called mangrovedao.earth, where we can actually vote on what we do with the treasury. So every year we get blue carbon credits from this existing project, and then our community votes, okay, what percentage do we pay out as dividends and what percentage do we invest in other mangrove projects? So the nice thing about our community is actually in all the votes, we have decided to invest the vast majority of our dividends into funding new mangrove projects. So this one mangrove project in Myanmar, which is now, creating dividends, that is being used to seed literally new mangrove projects in other areas that our community votes on. And with a DAO structure, you can do this very, very easily, right? So you can use voting on Snapchat, on Snapshot, and then decisions are made collectively. So it's a very, very efficient way to govern as well.
But how do you measure the blue carbon?
So the measurement, as I mentioned, about 360,000 of the $1 million that we raised actually went into the verification. So the project is verified, and then every year Vera grants VCUs, verified carbon units, to the Tor Climate Park, and they then give a small fraction of that to the Mangrove DAO. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Great. So I think we have a few more minutes and maybe bring back Justin. Open the floor if there are any more other standing questions. Otherwise, I have a last question for our speakers. Let me remove the spotlight. I'm trying to spotlight people. And now I'm going to bring back Justin.
Hi, Tiffany. I think I answered in writing a lot of the questions on the chat. So if people feel I've missed something, then please let me know. I guess I had one other thought with the work that we do is very cross-cutting. We have these skills to deal with data and talk to people and influence decision makers. But what we also need to do is critically understand these sectors, we call them sectors, these areas of our economy that are important right now. So, we have agriculture, so we need people who understand agriculture or are interested in learning how agriculture systems work for that credible understanding of data when you're scavenging data, knowing what data is good, what data isn't. And similarly for energy systems, energy use, transport, waste, circular economy, and then moving into the areas that are impacted from climate change. So that's the economy as a whole, manufacturing, the ecosystems themselves, the existing mangroves and forests that are there. There's a deep understanding that's needed of those systems in order to bring together credible data to influence decision makers. So yeah, that was my final thought, reflecting on the questions and the discussions that we've had so far.
Yeah. There's one question here. Todor, do you want to ask your question out loud, or I can read it? Up to you.
Sure. It's a bit more general. I was just wondering because I came across it. If anyone is maybe familiar with the Climate Base platform and if it is a good place to find I guess a position for early career professionals in the sustainability field, or if not, alternatively, if you have any other recommendations. It's just a general question, I guess.
So if Alan or Justin, you want to take this decision, is anyone familiar with the climate-based platform? Is it a good place for finding a job? Alternative.
I'm afraid I don't. No, sorry.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
One of the routes for finding jobs is either looking at organizations who are hiring sustainability experts or looking for sustainability skills, or there's a lot of interest in governments or subnational governments having transparency experts under the Paris Agreement. So there's also looking at those jobs in government or doing internships for jobs in government that could support that national or gaining experience of that national perspective. I think if you get an understanding of a national inventory from my perspective, then that opens doors for a large number of other opportunities down the line, because you get a flavor of the political landscape, the data and the data gaps, the interactions of the private sector, and an overview of all the sectors, and you can start to choose which kind of sectors you like and are interested in, and what skills that are there or are missing in all of those stakeholders that need to interact with the national strategy and the national inventory systems that are being used to drive that national policy.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, for one, from just the two presentations here, I mean, it's such a wide spectrum of how to use environmental data and like the different just things that I've never even thought of, like filmmaking and like what does that take? How you can use that in sustainability, and then also for mangroves. I mean, it's just, I don't know, I learned a lot myself, and I hope everyone else here learned a lot as well. Maybe I just want to leave with one question, because we are talking to our, well, they are already part of the workforce, but talking about the future of work. When you imagine, this is to the two presenters, and when you imagine the next generation of data scientists, policymakers, and entrepreneurs, what gives you hope about how they'll use environmental data differently than perhaps you have, or we, collective we, have? What's one hope you have for the future?
Well, Alan, after you.
Well, my biggest hope is that that our future decision makers will have a planetary consciousness and heart to really to really make the important decisions to start to regenerate and protect all life on the planet. And I also have hope that that advances in AI will be a guiding force. That we what if we had and AI instead of the IPCC.
Interesting. I like that. Justin, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things through building a business of people, delivering solutions principally to people, trying to use all the tools that we can. What I notice is that the decision makers of now are locked into a very narrow band of options for their decision making. You know, they emerge as CEO of Shell or BP or a big organization. They have such limited options to change. And what I hope for the younger generation is that they get a better blend of skills and abilities, and they can start to influence as they move their way up to the high level of decision making. They can start to influence a broader, better understanding of the complexity of the world that we live in. I think the other thing through working with and looking after young people within our organization is that this whole understanding of neurodivergence is coming around, and we're realizing everybody's different. We can't, you know, treat people all the same, and I think that is something that we need to embrace, understanding our differences. We all have strengths and weaknesses. We should really look to our weaknesses being as, you know, publicly understood as our strengths, so that we can work as a team. And I really hope that the younger generation can come through with these cross-cutting skills as well as these deep skills that are needed, so that you can, you know, influence the world around you rather than your skills being used for an area of work that you're not necessarily happy with. So that's what I'm hoping, that we have that broader perspective and understanding. And obviously data comes into that, but it's the people's interaction with data that's important.
Absolutely. Well said. And I hope that's my hope as well, to have more heart, people at the center, and celebrating diversity, and hopefully help us innovate us out of to a more peaceful, more sustainable planet. So thank you both for joining us. I'm going to dismiss you both if you don't have anything else to say, because our audience, I need to hold them. They have a little bit more of a session, an after session. I mean, you're welcome to stay if you want. It's more about advocacy and communications, and I'm going to hand it over to Josip. But feel free to stick around, but if not, you are free to go. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with prepping with us, and to spending time with our participants today. I know it's a busy time of year, so really super impressive work. Can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, everybody. It's been great to answer your questions.
Thank
I might sit
you.
around
so
for a
much.
bit, but then disappear. Thank you.
Sounds great.
All the
Thank you.
best.
Right. Bye. See you.
Bye.
Okay, Josip, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you to Justin and Alan. It was really wonderful, these presentations. And now we have something completely different, something that we can do together. It's a kind of small but very significant action that we could take collectively, and to kind of somehow reinforce the sense of kind of belonging and our community here that is slowly kind of developing in the Telegram group and in this comment section here. We would like to build on what Karen taught us last week on Friday, and we would like to do a collective media stunt by coming up with some creative and effective messaging around the objectives and purpose we want to serve here, namely sustainability and advancing the skills of the future. So what we are going to do is that we are going to kind of split up in groups of 10 people. And we are going. Your task will be to come up with a message based on the short instructions that I'm going to post here in the main chat. These are the instructions which were copied also in the Telegram group, together with a visual. So the idea is to discuss in smaller groups what are the messaging you want to kind of come up with, and then use. Most probably, we will kind of stick to LinkedIn, because it's probably the most professional social media network among the more popular ones. So if anybody doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, it's, I mean, not a big deal, so don't worry, but I hope most of you have. And it would be good to promote our interest, collective action taking, and the learning we are here exposed to somehow, or immersed to. So the idea is to create, to come up with maybe a few sentences of a message. It can be short and effective, it can be a little longer, but the point is that it connects you within the group, and then these groups will also be connected, and hopefully, if everything goes well, we will gain a lot of visibility on social media. And it will serve us, of course, as organizers who invested our time and ideas into this event, but it will also serve your kind of interest by promoting your learning, your interests, and showing that you care about the future. So I will upload here the visual, but in meantime, I would also ask Kubra or any of our colleagues who is in charge to create these rooms, and I will be also kind of joining the rooms briefly to see if you got the instructions right, and we'll assist you to come up with something together. And also, very important point, tagging people. So the reason why you are in groups is to kind of share, to kind of do some little kind of networking. That some of that already started in the Telegram group, but now here in the smaller group breakout rooms, you will be asked to kind of create a little chain reaction, and try to tag each other to discuss who will be tagging who. And then also by adding us as UNDP Eurasia, we will make sure that all of these messages go out and are somehow perceived as a part of a larger meaningful campaign promoting the causes we are talking about here. So let us then try to split in groups, and I'll be.
Should I launch it now?
Yes, we can do it now. Yeah, we can do it now.
I'll just ask people, please join the room and unmute yourself. If you're not able to unmute, please interact in the chat. Otherwise, it's not very fair to your fellow group members. So I'm launching the rooms now.
A question. I see a question. Leili, ideally, yes. I don't know. Unfortunately, these breakout rooms tend to take more time than planned, and if we will have time, we will ask you, to share some of the messages you came up with, but it will depend on the time we have left. Thank you, Kubra.
Todor, did you have a question too, or maybe he's gone?
Already kind of discussed, and I'm already posted, and my colleagues on the way to do it. So
okay,
yeah,
okay, all right.
Except of us, maybe to use this idea.
So we actually implemented the same system suggested, but since we're a smaller group in group 3, it was easier to implement.
Yes. That was the idea. I thought it will be easier, but yeah, some of the groups didn't manage. But doesn't matter. I'll also post something and try to tag some of you. So in case there is any further discussion needed on this or exchange of kind of profiles, we can do it also in the Telegram group. But this is it actually. So thank you very much for participating in this.
Just a quick question, if I may. Sorry,
yes,
Josip.
please,
Aren't we waiting for the picture?
Yes, the visual was shared a couple of times. I will share it again, and it's also in the chat box here and on Telegram. If you missed it.
Oh.
Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yes, I see it now.
Yeah, please download it, and then in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, if it's possible, let's post so that have kind of a coordinated action.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love the discussions in the breakout rooms. I think you are becoming a really strong community. Thank you for that. Thank you for your patience. Sorry for going a little bit over time. and handing then back to Tiffany to officially close this session, if it's all right, Tiffany.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you had a good session. Please give us some feedback. We have how many more weeks? 2 more? I think 2 more.
Yes, 2 more. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, 2. I mean, this is going by so fast. So if you have any feedback for us, please feel free to let us know. We want to make the most of your time. One thing that I know my colleague asked me to remind you, and I didn't even know this, but we are changing our clocks back 1 hour this coming Sunday, I think. If you are in Central European time, so do look at your calendars, because if you're in Turkey, I know you don't change your time, right? So it's going to be a little different. It'll be at 6 p.m. instead of, right? Or 5. It's still 5. I can't remember.
I think it will be, if it's 5 now, your local time, it will be 4 p.m. And I don't know how, if Central Asia is going to do it. So the time will definitely shift for those that are outside of Turkey.
Yes.
Only Turkey people will still have it at 5 p.m. So it will be still 5 p.m. Istanbul time.
That's
But
right.
whatever it was, I think it will be earlier for you. So just make sure you're not missing the sessions.
Yeah, so that's the one other thing. But yeah, but thanks for all your great questions. I wanted just to echo Josip. I think this community is really special. I see how active you are on Telegram. So I hope that we can continue this on. And then after, at the end, I want to talk to you about the Just Transition platform. I mentioned in another session before about doing a collective quiz or something. I think that it'd be great to do some sort of communication product for the platform. So we can talk about that a little bit later. I know it's late, so I'll let you go. And yeah, see you on Friday at 5 p.m. Istanbul time, where we're going to have 2 practitioners talk more about what they do day to day with environmental intelligence. So don't miss out on that. Okay, so have a good night.
Yes. Thank you, Tiffany. Just before we end the meeting, I will just share the link here, because I see somebody was asking for the link for the Telegram group. I will share it here, but no more remarks. Just so the chat is active for the next minute or so. Thank you.
May I also ask something? Another question of mine is, I'm having trouble tagging a person, because when I pop out her name, like how do you say that? We call it crazy A. When you put crazy A and then her name, it does not pop out in the menu. So how do I make sure I tag her?
And she's definitely on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, I got a follow. I don't think I connected, but I got a follow.
You may need a connection. Sometimes the settings may not allow for you to be tagging people that are outside of your network.
I will change my settings now, so don't worry.
Yeah, probably it's a setting. Yeah, probably it's a setting of some users.
Yeah, it's mine actually.
No worries. Great.
Okay,
protect your privacy.
Yeah, of course. Great. Okay, thank you very much. If anybody has any additional questions, just post them in the Telegram group. I will be responding to them. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you all.